All right. So tonight we're gonna have some. I'm gonna do my best. Not really. I'm gonna attempt halfway to not go off too hard on a couple topics. Eh, might not try all that hard if I'm being honest with you. Kind of in a mood. You know, one of the things that bothers me is that people don't seem to understand, nor do they care the effect that they have on others by running their business poorly. I say that because we've got a deal that was supposed to have closed, at the beginning of the month. And it got extended to the 10th and might have to get extended a little bit past that. One of the conditions of the buyer's response to inspection was to have the foundation worked on. Not a big deal, happens all the time. So it got booked, it got scheduled, and the contractor, I'm not going to name the names, at least try not to. But if I get a little bit more agitated about it, I might let it slip. So they got him on the books for, let me go back and I'll look at the original time. Was supposed to be the third. That was as soon as they could get out there. So that's why we set the extension to the 10th. That way we can have the repairs done. My investors, by the way, it's their house. I'm selling it for them. They could have the repairs done or because whenever you do foundation work, sheetrock can pop. You'll have these little patches that you need to do, and it's nothing major, but cosmetically, you want to have that done because no buyer wants to go in there and see cracked sheetrock. So it was scheduled on Thursday, the third. Well, then they're like, "Oh, we're going to be having bad weather, so can't do it." Okay, well, we didn't, to my knowledge, didn't have it on Thursday. Okay, so they scheduled it for yesterday, which was the 7th. Yesterday, they didn't get out there because it was ground was too wet. Too wet. We didn't come out there and look at it, but the ground was too wet. Be out there today. This morning, this morning, they had a flat on the way over there. And it was some bearings went out on the trailer. So now they had to go and get that repaired. All this time, we're trying to get all this buttoned up because they were supposed to have started back on the third. Weather delay, okay. Ground still wet, okay. But now you're telling me that you don't have dependable transportation. The whole time, my sellers are trying to honor their obligations. The buyers, God love them, they're over here stuck living in a hotel until they can close and get moved in. So we had to work out a couple different arrangements to make this a win-win for everybody. If you know me, you probably know that I tend to get very protective of people, and I've got this almost uh, almost on the spectrum sense of justice. Like right or wrong, if it hurts me or not, if I feel like somebody's being done wrong on this, I'm going to be like, no, here comes Captain Savaho. Um, well, I jump in there, and by the way, if you're watching this, I'm not referring to my clients as host. I'm just giving an expression. Um, Yeah, so I jump in there. I get a hold of the office for this company. I call them and I'm like, "Hey, look, we got to sort this out. Who do I talk to?" Well, the girl, she was friendly enough. She gave me both people's numbers. One guy, the point guy, the manager for the project, he didn't answer. And I was surprised. The my clients told me that he hadn't been answering all day. So called the other number was the owner, and owner didn't answer. Left messages for both the project manager and the owner. The owner tells me that he is out of state turkey hunting and he will call me tomorrow. Okay. All right. Great. So you're going to waste a day before you get anywhere on this. You don't know what your project manager is doing, et cetera, et cetera. But you can get back to me tomorrow. Man, I sure do appreciate the effort that you're putting in there for your company. Anyway, after a couple text exchanges, that's the best way to put it. They call me and we start hashing this out over the phone. Mainly because I explained to them that, you know, I don't know if you understand the predicament that you're putting my clients in. So I made sure that I communicated that effectively. Um, Whether or not it was well received, mm, maybe that's the other thing I've got to work on because there are times that I don't care if, like me, love me, hate me. I'm over here. I'm in objection or not objection, but I'm in objective based mode, right? So I need to get solutions. Let's get the solutions for the client. Let's get the solutions for the customer, and let's close this deal. You can think I'm an asshole later. It's fine. So we did. We got on there, hammered it out. Now tomorrow morning we will find out if they hold true to their word or if I'm going to hold true to mine, which is, I don't know. I'll share this experience with everybody. I've got a couple Facebook groups with a couple thousand people in them. So, I'm sure that local company would love some free publicity. They just might not like the light in which it's given to them. So we'll see if they keep their word. All that to say, it's important to have a contract with somebody, not just an agreement. Whenever you're working with a vendor, it can be a contractor, it can be a painter, it can be a plumber for a water heater. That's a little extreme. Plumber for a water heater, I don't really do contracts on that. But if I'm going to do any kind of remodel work, we're going to do it with a contract. It's going to have a scope of work outlined. You're going to have your bid attached to it. And then we're going to both be like adults. You're going to do the work. I'm going to pay you. That simple. There have been some contractors over the years that have, as I get away from that, they've given me some great reminders of why I put that process in place. Uh, because not everybody will watch your money or protect your interests like you do. So you have to be an advocate for yourself or find somebody that's just like me that's going to go over here and, let people think that I'm the bad guy for jumping in and raising a little hell, just a little bit, to get things done, or at least keep it moving along the way. That being said, I've sold 6 or 7 homes for these investors, and even yesterday it was really touching because the husband, we were talking. He said, and by the way, my parents, they're going to be looking to move over here. Already told them, don't look. I've got somebody that's going to help you out. The beauty of that is that I'm 1,100 miles away. So for my reputation to still hold strong in that process, it was a real humbling and flattering experience, to be honest with you, to hear somebody else say, "Hey, look, I know that you won't be the one physically here to open the doors for them. You'll have an agent do that, but knowing that you're the one that's going to be negotiating for them and helping them, that's important." And I tell you, kind of made my day. Speaking of, I had somebody else that closed. Yeah, Richard, I should be live on YouTube as well. Um, I had another person that we just closed on their house yesterday. Military relocation. They came through and reached out to me online. We discussed everything. He liked me. I liked him. We decided we were going to work together. We closed yesterday. Never met the guy. It was all done virtually through systems, through the processes of having people go over there, showing them these are how I need the angles. This is what I need, and then also working with some great agents. That helps too. So, shout out to Annalisa Giddens. She was great to work with. I've worked with her a few times over the years. She always makes the transaction easy. She's there to get the job done to create the win-win. And I always admire whenever I have an agent that I can work with like that. So, Annalisa, if you ever see this clip, congratulations. Loved working with you and hope we can in the future again. Let's see. What else are we working on? Oh yeah, I'll be speaking up in Orlando at their RIA later this month. So if you happen to be in the Orlando area on the 24th, I'll be up there speaking. So if that's something that you're curious about, we're finalizing the details. I've got to sign the speaker contract, and I'll be up there. So I welcome you to come out if you're in the Orlando area. Let's see what else. So by the way, just so we're keeping the ball rolling, and I'm not just sitting here rambling like a lunatic. Feel free to ask a couple questions. What are you working on? What challenges are you having in your real estate investing? Even talk to me about your diet and exercise. I'm happy to show you what's working for me. Maybe maybe not diet and exercise, but if it comes down to real estate investing and strategy, I'm happy to talk about that. Let's see. We've got oh this package of properties that I'm selling, the 7 properties. Looks like we are on track there to where in less than 3 weeks we should be closed. So knock on wood. Uh, that seller, she is actually just awesome, and I'm so excited to get that done for them. Let's see. Oh, we got a couple listings coming up. So if you're working on that, then understand. Great. Ah, here's one for you. We had a flip under contract that I had to send back. So anybody that has had that happen knows the frustration. And I could tell you in the past 4 months, just from the beginning of the year, I think we've had three go on a contract, spend $500 for an inspection, and we're not able to negotiate after finding some issues on those inspections. We would have to let those flips go. And while that's not ideal, I would prefer to always buy. But I had this one situation where we got it under contract, and it was almost poetic. Like it was the same street that we did our first flip on. So we were looking there, got it under contract, and found a number of issues. Number one, the roof needed to be replaced. There was an active leak. There were some termites in the building out back. There's a huge foundation problem that was quoted at, I want to say it was 28 or $29,000 just for that. So by the time you do all this, you understand that I cannot offer the price that I had for them just based on a cosmetic rehab. Yet the seller wouldn't budge off their price. And let me just let me be petty for a quick second here. As of yesterday, still wasn't under contract again. Oh, hey, look, they got it pending today. All right, so good for them. We'll see where it closes. But all that to say, as frustrating as it is when that happens, you've got to be willing to walk. If it doesn't pencil out, you can't go make a bad deal on thin margins now more than ever because our buyers are so sensitive to the market and the interest rates. Okay, I want you to follow me on this. When the interest rates are high, that puts downward pressure on your buyer pool. All right. So let's say, for example, if interest rates were at 4%, and these are all rough numbers, so don't math check me on this. But if interest rates are at 4% and somebody was qualified to buy $400,000, now that the interest rates are 6.5, 7%, you see what's kind of happening to the amount that those borrowers can borrow. It goes down. So it creates this downward pressure into the market. And well, I'm sure you understand that the amount of people that could buy, say $100 million home, you could probably count on one hand for a given area. But the amount of people that could spend or buy a $300,000 home, you get a larger buyer pool, right? And that buyer pool is important because it factors into how fast can the market move. So, all that to say, we like to stay in that price point to where first time home buyers, second time home buyers that maybe are doing a little upgrade can really get in there and work. But that's where with these rates, as that happens, the people that could afford the 500,000 are now affording the 400, and it's just When it rolls downhill. You know what I mean? So all that to say, we want to be sensitive to that whenever we're doing our numbers, which means that we have to stay sharp. So if you're a flipper and you're out here looking for these deals and you're starting to get a little antsy because you haven't had a deal in a little bit, you're just like, oh, well, you know what? I'll just take a deal just to have a deal. And look, let me tell you, speaking from experience, there are less expensive hobbies out there to go for. So maybe not try to flip a house and just see what happens. You know, you got to have a defined plan. You know that saying, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So let's see. Can you do HML for rental properties where I go in to rehab the property and pull the equity out for refinance? Richard, yes and no. So let me explain that. I'm actually the hard money lending, the private money lending that I do is somewhat boutique in what I'm able to do with it, right? So if I go over and I loan you the money to do a purchase and renovation, just like you would a standard flip, I would have to send you out. Now I've got partnerships with other lenders that I can send you to for the refinance. I can help you on the acquisition and the rehab. But as far as the long-term debt, that's not what I do with my capital or the capital that I work with, right? So ours is typically real short, 6 months to a year. That's where we like to stay because that's where my investors are the happiest. And it's where I'm happiest for them because we like to stay short-term debt, mainly because we're not competitive. Whenever you go out to some of these other lenders that are out there, some of these bigger houses that I can simply send the loan to and do the loan. So it's not a difficult thing to do. But yeah, I can definitely help with those kind of things. You have to be aware of what banks you're going to use. So I'll let you know this. You run into a couple issues. Number one, some banks want seasoning, right? Which means that you have to own the property for a certain amount of time before they're going to even refinance you. All right. Some banks it's 6 months, some banks it's a year. So that's why offering that term that we offer, it works based on your schedule, but you have to be on the ball whenever it comes time to refinance that. So a lot of the times, what people will do, and this is just some of the strategies where they will use me, and I'll come in and let's say that you're doing $100,000 remodel or $100,000 purchase and remodel, 100 total. Well, you're going to put 20% down. And for me, typically, I don't care if you go and get an equity partner for that 20% down. Not a big deal for me. You're going to have to know your exit though. So if it's going to be a local lender, you're going to have to make sure that that DSCR loan will still cash flow for you based on the interest rates, based on the terms that they give you. A lot of your local lenders, your credit unions, your community banks, they're going to give you what's called a 515. All right. So that means that you're going to get a 5-year term and a 15-year amortization, which means that essentially you're going to have to, you're going to have 5 years with the bank in this relationship. And over the course of those 5 years, they're going to treat it as if it was a 15-year loan. So your note's going to be based on repayment at a 15-year schedule. That's one way to do it. And then some banks, they also have a 20-year amortization, which means that it'll still be the 5-year term. However, they'll treat it as if you finance it for 20 years. So in 5 years, you're still going to have that balloon payment, but your monthly debt service isn't going to be as expensive as the 15-year amortization. Does that make sense? And whenever you go and look at, sorry, let me just turn off my phone so I stop getting distracted by messages. Whenever you go to look at that, there's a local bank there in Shreveport, Bossier. They do 25-year amortization. Yet they've got a couple requirements that you've got to meet for that to happen. So I would say that yes, you can do that. Be aware of where you're going to go. And I've got people over here that give 30-year fixed. So it'll be a full 30-year, fixed loan. They've got some different requirements that you want to be aware of. So sometimes your DSCR ratio, right, and that stands for debt service coverage ratio, is going to be at a 1, which means that the income has to offset the projected expenses and the cost of the money, the debt service, by a 1-to-1 ratio. It has to break even for those things. Now, obviously, you want it to cash flow. You want to make a little bit of money on it, right? You're not doing it for a hobby, right? So as you go into that, some banks are becoming a little bit more constricted, right? So there's a lot of moving parts to this. So instead of a 1-to-1 ratio, they might go to a 1.15. They might go to a 1.25, to where now you have to make 125% of the expenses, right? So there's going to be enough over there to where you can have variance in things, to where if they allocate for 10% vacancy, that 1.25, you're still within loan terms or guidelines if you have, say, 12% vacancy, because it's going to throw your numbers out a little bit, but it's offset by having enough cash flow, which is why I explain to people I don't go over here and just say, no, I'm not going to buy this house. I'm going to look and reverse engineer where my numbers need to be to offset the cost of my debt service, the cost of my money. And I think that's why the banks like us. So I hope that I answered that with all the rambling that I'm doing. But yes, long story short, I can help you get the purchase, the acquisition, but also on that exit when you go to refinance it. Keep in mind that some banks they've got different loan minimums. So the one that I know right now, they're somewhat aggressive. Their loan minimum is $75,000. So that means that the asset has to be worth at least $100,000 because they do a 75% loan to value. So with that being the lowest, then they have to have that much of a spread. Some of your local banks, and hit me up and with a DM later, and I can get you connected to a couple people. They might have different ratios. All right. Let's see. Where's my next one? Micaiah, I want to get into flipping. I have a good amount in savings. I have no credit. Only options, loans from PMLs. Yeah. So, a couple of those things. Yes, I work with first time borrowers. I do asset based lending, which means I'm looking at the asset for what it is. Now, there's going to be certain restrictions on your loan, right? Let's say, for example, you find a house for a $50,000 purchase, and then you're going to need a $50,000 remodel, but the house is going to be worth $200,000 when you're done with it. If you come to me with a deal like that, then I'm going to say, okay, well, great. I'll cover up to 80% of your purchase, right? So of that $50,000, I'll cover 80%, which is $40,000. So you're going to have to come to the table with that 20%, that $10,000 plus your fees, right? And the fees are going to be your points, your origination fees, appraisal fees, et cetera, that go into the standard operating of a closing. Then what's going to happen is you're going to get your initial draw because I'll fund not only 80% of the purchase, but I'll also fund up to 100% of the remodel, which means as long as you're not exceeding 70% total loan to value, which of the ARV, right? The after repair value of $200,000 means that our total loan amount could not exceed $140,000. Well, you're only borrowing 100, so good for you. You're well within the guidelines. And yes, I work with first time borrowers like that. That being said, there's a couple caveats that we have to put into place. Number one, what contractor are you using? Are they licensed and insured? Do you have the timeline that you need to go on? Do you have the scope of work detailed out? Because what'll happen is we're going to run an appraisal, and that appraisal can range a few $100, but you're going to get an as is valuation of the property and a as complete valuation. It's the same appraisal, but it has two different methods. And that just means that, hey, look, Makai's house is going to be worth $65,000 as it stands. So right there, would I loan 40,000 on a $65,000 house? Yes, I would. All right, so that's hurdle one. You've jumped that. Now we have to say, what would it be worth after the repairs? So if you tell me, hey, Lee, it's going to be worth $200,000 easy after I get this thing fixed up, which we give that scope of work to the appraiser, and the appraiser comes back and says, look, I'm only seeing 175,000. All right, so that's what? That's 119,900, something like that. Well, now I'm curious. Did I do my math right? So 175 times 0.7, 122.5, right? So that's where we would have to make sure that your loan is still within guidelines. In this case, yeah, you're good. So a lot of that, you just have to kind of, fumble through a couple deals and you'll start to get it. But starting out with a PML, it's well advised, especially whenever you don't have your credit, because you can go over here, make the deal happen, take the money that you made, work on the credit. That's key. Do another deal, work on the credit. And while that's not the sexy answer that everybody wants of, hey, you go out here and you get a Rolex, and now you go and you flex in front of a Bentley. Something tells me that if that was the life that you're chasing, you wouldn't be watching me in the first place. Brother, I love my life. I'm sitting here in a, very well, by some standards, it's a very nice home. Um, Compared to other people living on the beach, it's a very modest place. I love it. Why? Because I have the freedom to go over and, go get a pedicure at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. I can go and do a spa day with my wife on a Wednesday just because it's a random day that I want to do it. So I would encourage you to go over here and find what's important to you. And in the meantime, fix your credit so that you can build up to that. Yeah, Makai, anytime. Whenever you find a deal, just go over to my link and put in your request for funding. I'll look at it. It's a 5-minute application, and I'll tell you, where I'm at with it. And I want you to understand that you've got PML, you've got HML, you've got some people out here that I'm doing next week. We're going to have equity trust on here, and the person's going to be basically discussing how you can take your 401k and take all or a portion of it, roll it over into a self-directed IRA, and really start to see some incredible things. Imagine this. Let's say that you go over, and this is one strategy that I like. If people are trying to really go over here and build up, let's say that you have even $1,000 in a 401k that you completely forgot about, and you roll that over, you put it into a self-directed. What could you do with $1,000? Not that much. However, this is kind of cool, kind of, I like this because I love to see when somebody can go and bootstrap up their business just because we did it. So I've got a fondness for people that are willing to put in the work and get on the grind. But let's say that you take that $1,000 and now you go out here and you're going to, you find a deal to wholesale. And there's about $5,000 or $10,000 in the assignment fee for you. You take, and by the way, this isn't legal or tax advice. Let me get that out of the way. You take $100 or $500 or the full $1,000. You have equity trust. Take that and send it to the title company as your EMD, as your earnest money deposit. Well, your IRA can charge interest for that money, right? So let's say that 1,000, you agree to pay your own IRA 5,000 of your assignment fee back because, well, they helped you by being the private money lender on your deal. So now that 1,000 that's over here, you close on the deal, but it's bringing $6,000 back. So your 1,000 plus the 5,000 that you did, and then you still made another 5,000 on your assignment. So you just made 500% return on your money, right? I want you to understand the concept on this because it's powerful. Once you really grasp the power of this kind of leverage, that's when it can spin and snowball and really build. So now let's say that you've got two wholesale deals and you use $2,000 of it. Well, now you're bringing in $6,000 again twice. All right. Now you've just taken that $1,000, and let's say that you're somewhat active in the space. You do 3 deals that year. Even 3 deals. On 3 deals at that kind of price, you made $15,000 just for your spending money over here to offset some taxes. But then you made $15,000 back over here into that self-directed IRA. Cool. Now you do that a few more times. Now you got $25,000. That self-directed IRA might be able to be the partner and provide down payment to a HML, a hard money lender, a private money lender, to do this project with an equity partner over here. And now that equity trust account or whatever account you use, your self-directed IRA, goes over here. They do the down payment, and let's say that you make $20,000, $30,000 as your share of the flip. Now you've taken that account, and I'd say a year and a half. Now you've got the better part of $50,000, in this by just doing a few wholesales and a flip. And I tell you, for somebody like myself that didn't really start messing with a 401k until I was about 29, 28 maybe, when, my now wife pointed out to me that I was being stupid by not at least doing the 6% company match that I was getting. Yeah, it's a hell of a way to pump it back up. But then you get into other strategies and everything else. So I would tell you, don't don't worry too much about where you're at. Just focus on where your goals are and what you're going to be growing to. Let's see, Richard, do you have an HTML calculator? You know, I wish I did. I could probably find one somewhere, but I don't really have one to calculate. A lot of it is just understanding that you're going to be doing interest only payments most of the times, and different HMLs, different PMLs have requirements. Like for example, once we give our money, right? We've went through the deal, we've underwritten it, and everything else, and now we're expecting this amount of interest a year. Then that's going to be your interest only payments, right? So let's say, for example, it's a 12% loan and you borrow $100,000. That means that every month you're doing an interest only payment of $1,000 every single month. But let's say that month one comes and you flip the house and you get a cash buyer, they close in 2 weeks. Man, look, I done underwrote this loan. I done got all this moved around, set the money up, and send it over to you. And in a month, you give it back with $1,000. It's not what I want. So some lenders do what's called prepayment penalties. So it could be 3% for 3 months, could be 4% for 4 months, to where basically if you pay them off before that amount of time, then it's going to be that fee, that penalty on that money. That way they can at least know that they're locking up a certain amount of return. Because, if in 3, 4 months they turn around and have to go find another loan, not a big deal. But if they do it in a month, yeah, it kind of hurts the annualized return that they're getting, right? So just something to be aware of. But as long as you understand interest only and how to calculate that, Richard, whenever you get a deal, submit it in, and I'll do the 5-minute application, get it back to you. And once you get that, you'll actually see the term sheet. It'll have all the fees and everything and what you could expect to pay. There was a couple things that I do with these different loans, and I need to start publishing more case studies. But when somebody talks to me and they're asking for any kind of loan, what am I going to do? What kind of rate can I cut them? A lot of the times I expect or explain to you that I'm not your guy if you're looking for the cheapest money out there. I'm the guy that shows up. I'm the guy that people call whenever their other person that they went to after we had been working on something falls through. And, or they went to a lender. And by the way, I'm about to get off on the soapbox. Do not fall for some of this bullshit out here, right? So you've got some of these people that say that, oh, I'm a hard money lender. I don't charge any fees. Give me your application. And on the application, you think it's innocent enough. You're filling it out, you give the information, and then a week later, you're like, man, I never did hear back from them. Wait, why is my LifeLock saying that I've had fraud on my social security number? Ain't that a bitch? Somebody done went and grabbed your information because you went to some kind of unvetted lender who says that they do it. And I'm in these groups for private money lenders, and there's so many scammers. They're over here saying like, "Oh, I only do 2% interest." Let me tell you, Mister at gmail.com email. Do you really think that somebody's out here lending at 2% interest whenever the Fed won't even give you that? You've got to have a certain BS detector whenever you get out here with this, especially in dealing with some of these people, because there's also private money lenders that they're going to drown you in fees, right? So they're going to collect appraisal fees, underwriting fees, origination fees, all these fees up front, which is the big problem. Whenever they collect all these fees, and then they're like, all right, great, proceed. We got you. Then the day of closing, you're sitting around looking with empty pockets, like, huh, why don't I have my funding? Well, it's because they got their money by squeezing you for a few $1,000s up front. So I would say, Richard, when the time comes, just get with me and I'll show you some stuff. If you don't like the way I do business, it's okay. There's a lot of people out there. You can go to them too. But like I tell people, if you're worried about, you know, the interest that I charge, then chances are, respectfully, you didn't get a good enough deal because you're typically going to be allowing for the interest rate that I charge. Let's see, where are we at? Any other questions, comments, concerns? Let's see. Let me check my phone right quick while we have a second. All right. There's a few things. I've got one. There we go. All right. Let's see. Is anybody else working on anything? Do you have any flips going right now? Any rentals? Any wholesale deals? I'm about to get my assistants going again in a couple markets. So I'm excited for that. We'll see. And I'm working with a young man down here in Florida. He's been spending the past 2 weeks getting skilled up on doing some cold calls. So he's getting cut loose on that. I'll go ahead and hit this tangent. I love investing in people when they show that they're worth investing in. Yeah, that might sound a little elitist, maybe. I don't know. But this kid, like 19 years old, and let me tell you, at 19, making a business and starting a business was the furthest thing from my mind. So I admire when somebody comes in and he's at these meetings, he's eager, he's learning, he's doing, he's taking the action to make these things happen. We He was asking me, I don't know, about a month ago about a deal. And so we talked and I explained to him wholesaling is an extremely simple process. You just need a few forms and you need to be able to have a conversation. Need to be able to estimate repairs and know what strategy the property fits. So we talk a little bit about it and you can just tell when somebody's got that fire, you know, to where you could deter them, but you're never going to stop them, and God, I wish whenever I was younger, I wish that somebody would have believed in me, like that. And I think that that's one thing that I've learned is that we become the people that we needed the most when we were younger. So I'm gonna try not to get all misty out about that, save that for therapy or something. But all that to say, this kid is going out there and I give him a script to work with. I explain to him like embedded commands and how to handle objections. So we're working back and forth over the past 2 weeks. And he was really like to get started. He was eager, man. He was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna read the script and I'll get out there and do this tomorrow. And I said, whoa, hold up, young blood. You ain't quite ready to get on the phones yet because kind of like dog chasing the car. What are you going to do if they say yes? So anyway, we talked and we kind of strategized and we planned. So today, I actually invested in the money to get him his first month of a dialer, right? Which is what we'll use for the cold calls. I gave him a list of like 5,000 leads to work with, and that's all down here in Florida. And yeah, tomorrow we've got a quick call. I'm going to show him how I open up an LLC and get an EIN so that I can go and open up a business bank account so that now I can write off the expenses for this startup. Um, and I tell you, that was something that I love being able to do. To find somebody that's got that fire, that passion, and say, you know what, it's a few $100 for me. If you don't do anything with it, is what it is. Now I'm not going to go over here and do it 100 times a day. I'm going to be somewhat judicious with the people that I'm like, you know what, you got this. Yeah, we'll see where it's at. But I would say that if you're an investor in here and somebody comes to you and says, hey, look, I have more time than I have money. Can you leverage that with me? I would encourage you to start finding a way to make that work. Take on somebody, be a mentor. And one thing that I can encourage you to keep in mind is that no matter where you're at, right? you only have to be one step above the people that you're helping. And I'm not saying go out here and charge $50,000 for a course. If you start doing that bullshit, just don't even talk to me. But if you go out here and you truly help them, so long as they prove that they're worth investing in. Now, if they start coming up with excuses and all the reasons why they can't do something, well, I'm not gonna just open up the wallet, as easily for somebody like that. Amber, oh my goodness, that is amazing. All right, so let me stop my rambling for a second and celebrate this. Amber has been working on these projects well, not these projects. She's been working on this one particular project for a while, and it's an amazing program. Let's just say that it's an amazing program that had a few hurdles to be able to unlock some of the features of the program. And I'll actually leave that up to Amber to share with people if she wants to talk about, the particulars of the program. And if so, let me know and I'll bring you up on the stream. Otherwise, I'm just going to say that she ran into roadblock after roadblock. We even talked about me funding it. However, there wasn't enough equity in the deal for my guidelines because, well, if you don't know this about me, I'm kind of a stickler for it has to fit a certain box for me to be comfortable moving. So with that, she ran into she had a hell of a time with it. But whenever I tell you, there are people that can be deterred, but you can't be stopped. Yeah, Amber's one of them. So, girl, congratulations! I'm really excited for you. Like more than I should be. I feel like this is yeah. I mean, it's not even my win, but damn, I'm enjoying celebrating it for you. Congratulations. Now, you start next week, and oh, you would. All right, Amber, let me send you over this. Check your Facebook Messenger. It's going to be an invite, and it will allow you to come on the stream and join me. Richard, let's see right quick. One last question for tonight. Do you loan other lines of business other than real estate? Yes and no. Um, I would have to look and see what the business is, but also what collateral do I get for that exchange, right? Um, I have a couple people that I've worked with before, to where I've worked out a line of credit with equity, and then I'll also get a percentage of ownership of the company. So, you know, I'd be open to just giving line of credit. I would want to see what the offering is and how much does it make sense or align with my values and my goals, right? So if you come to me and say, hey Lee, I'm going to open up an exotic, car dealership, probably not going to be the one to help you, right? That's just not my bag necessarily. So I tend to try to stay in my lane. But if you tell me, hey, look, I want to open up a series of, say, car washes that are attached to real estate, um, washaterias, yeah, we might be able to talk a little bit, right? So, oh, hang on, I see Amber coming in, and I've got you on stage. So,
Hi. Had a bit of a
yeah.
delay. Am I in sync?
No, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Your
Yeah,
video was playing and you were talking in this anyway, this
yeah.
technology is new to me.
So the best way to do that, ignore the other sites, ignore Facebook, and just focus in StreamYard. So if you go back to your Facebook stream and
Uh-huh.
you mute it, it'll silence us, but you'll still be able to communicate through StreamYard.
Okay. I turned Facebook off, so I think I'm okay.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo in the background, so you should be all right. So yeah, for the people watching, this is Amber, and she is amazing. Number one, she's also she has a huge passion for helping others and redeveloping and reinvesting in areas often going overlooked. So, with that, Amber, if you want to give a quick intro of it and then the hurdle that you had, and then if you want to give us the resolution, I'd love to hear
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know. This is just pure testimony. It's not guaranteed, but it does go towards what you were saying about just being resilient and believing in what you're doing. But the program that you were talking about that we got funding for, we got a commitment of funding, is the Rental Restoration and Development Program in Louisiana. And it was for areas impacted by, it was like Hurricane Laura and Delta back in like 2020 or 2021, 22. It was a while ago. There was some federal funding that was dispersed within the state to certain parishes. And it just so happened that we had two properties, two single family homes that we had bought as part of like a portfolio because we were just trying to buy up in our neighborhood. And the homes were vacant at the time that the NOFA was released. And they just met all of the qualifications. So I applied for it, not knowing whether or not we were going to get it, but basically you could get up to $120,000 to completely renovate the property. And it was for each one. So it's not like you put forth a full project. It's just you apply per house. And it was intended to help homeowners, but developers could benefit from it as well, which is like how it all works. Affordable housing works through government subsidies. So we were able to get the funding for that because we didn't know how we were going to afford the renovations on these properties because, they're properties that you buy for $30,000 and they're only worth $60,000. So, but they need $100,000 worth of work. So we were really lucky to put forth a package that won the funding, but you have to pay for the funding. You have to pay for the renovations up front before they give you the money. And then the one that we applied under, you hold it as a rental for 5 years. And then that loan with the Louisiana Housing Corporation is ultimately forgiven. Yeah. So it's like, it's a grant, but you have to follow some guidelines for you to actually get it. Which is fine. We were fine with that. We wanted to hold our properties anyway. It was just getting bridge financing because we exhausted all our capital already to get our first couple of properties done. So we were in a position where we had to go for funding, and hard money lenders I figured would be the easiest route to go because I thought it would be more forgiving than traditional banks because they force you. They're traditional banks are more conservative, even if it is a credit union. But it was every time I would reach out to someone or like post in real estate investing groups or just anytime I posed it, the first question I got was, well, what's it going to appraise at? And I'd have to be very clear and upfront. Like, I can give you all the details, all the information, but it's not going to appraise for what it needs to appraise at to meet traditional metrics. I need you to take into account the fact that we're going to get this grant, and that's how you're going to get your money back. And it was just not a lot of people were willing to do it. And as you know, it was very disheartening because it seemed in my head, I'm like, but it's so straightforward and stuff. But it's like, like you were saying, there's a reason why real estate investors are successful, and it's because they have a model and they stick to it. So I was like, okay, well, I've just got to find the ones that are investing in programs like this. Yeah. And I didn't find that. I just found someone after I had a tennis hit one day. I just mentioned it to them and they said they had money to invest. And 3 weeks later, they wrote us a check.
Girl. So you remember the saying, you're only one conversation away from changing your life. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that, and first off, it's tennis, it's already your passion. So you're over there, you're playing a game, you're showing them how wicked of a backhand you got, or whatever move that is they do in tennis. I don't know. I know that they've got love. That's all I know, right? So after that, you go over there and be like, hey, look, sorry, I beat you so bad. Next time I'll try to take it easy on you. And they're like, hey, would you just take my money next time instead of my pride? So No, that's awesome, girl.
Yeah, it didn't quite go down like that, but I will tell you,
Tell me that
and then
story.
I'll shut up and let you finish. But not let you finish. This is your stream. But what's interesting about it, and like kind of I think the ultimate lesson in all this is, I started the conversation with her after. You remember we got that appraisal back for the new construction project that we have, and I posted
Yeah,
about that. It's like it's going to cost 160,000, but the appraisal came back at 107 because they didn't even bother to go outside the neighborhood to get comps that were actually new construction.
yeah,
That's what I was talking to her about. And, I was like, I remember I got that news. I cried so hard that morning. I was just like on the floor. I had to take a day off work because I was just so gutted.
yeah.
Like, why is this so hard? And 2 days later, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. Like you said, I'm going to do this thing that I love to do, to hang out with these people who are amazing and all that good stuff. And I happened to mention that to her, and that's that's so that had to happen. Like the hardship had to happen.
Yeah, yeah,
This is just a testimony that it's never anything happening to you. It's happening for you. It,
that's right.
for you. Simple
I
as that.
tell people that the universe conspires in my favor.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the that's one of the things that because my wife and I we have these conversations frequently. Depending on the day, it's sell it all and move to Thailand, and live out our lives in retirement, on the beach sipping coconuts in a third world country with
Yep.
affordable health care. So we've had those conversations and we've had those tough days. I mean, last year alone, I'd say we probably spent just in foundation work. I haven't seen it from the accountant yet, but I would say that we probably close to $100,000 just in foundation repair from 2 months of rain and then 2 months of drought. It just boom popped a lot of foundations. So good year for foundation repair companies. Not a fun year for us.
Yeah.
But as that, one of the things that in all that storm, I was having some health issues. I was even in the hospital for 5 days, and the whole time I was just resolved to it. And my wife, she was concerned. She was like, "Are you okay? Like up here?" I'm like, "Oddly enough, I am," because until you go through it, you can't grow through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that now, if that situation pops up 5 years from now, what are you able to do? You're able to get through it that much faster.
Yep.
You're able to say, "Shit, I'm going to play tennis," and you're going to go get those funds again, right? So at least because you went through it. And we've had that conversation before too, where I told her that I felt so bad that because there are times whenever I see somebody, like I said earlier, I'm just like, got it. I believe in them and everything else. And then also at the same time, I'm restricted to follow my passion this much when I want to follow it this much
Mm-hmm.
because of the capital stack that you're working with. So I'm just so proud of you.
Thank
Like seriously, it made my night. And I was having, I'm not going to say a crappy day, but I had to get out of character or maybe in character, depending on how you put it, with some people. And it was refreshing to see somebody like book a win. So thank you. Don't ever feel bad about coming on stream and sharing success. So
Yeah, I've been waiting. I've been waiting. It's like I can't wait to tell everybody we did it. We did it.
you got the check?
Yeah.
In the bank?
Yep.
And it cleared?
Yep.
That's a win.
Yep.
So when does the construction start?
Next week.
All right.
Yeah.
Barring any rain.
We got the drawings last week, and the contractor was out there this week, like talking to the guys and getting the game plan. I got to have fun with chat and like pick the colors.
Okay. All right. Are you messing with some of the GPT, like the one in Canva or CapCut or anything? Are you seeing?
No, I just like OpenAI. I took the picture of the front of the house and I said, we want it to be gray with pink trim and a black door. Could you give me a rendering of it? And it was perfect.
Now you're going to have to post a picture of that in school for me if you don't mind. I want to see what gray with pink trim looks like.
It's cute. It's very cute,
Okay.
very charming. So yeah.
Well, I'm kind of colorblind, so if I'm like it looks white, then just forgive me.
Okay.
Well,
Well, I'll tell Catherine to tell you what it looks that is cute. Trust.
she usually points it out. She trusts me now to get dressed myself, unless I'm wearing something like that's not gray, black, or white.
Yeah.
Anything outside of those colors, she gets oversight.
Okay.
Funny story. When we first started dating, I'd get dressed and get ready to go work at the casino at midnight. And one night I'm over there at her apartment and I'm getting ready. She's like, "Why do you wear a black sport coat and navy pants?" And I'm like, "What you mean navy pants?" And she looks at me, she's like, "Your pants are navy blue." And I'm like, "No, they're black." And over the years, she has identified me as a guy that can see like 4 colors. So, apparently I didn't know that until she came along and pointed out that I've been clashing my whole life. So, all right, I'll leave that up to her. But lastly, I want to tell you, thank you. You came on and made the stream. You made my night. So now I know, like being the social media person that you are, you're going to get the before, during, after, and all that stuff documented for us.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. All right. Would you be open to coming on here one night and once you get the bill at least roughed in or anything, that you'd come on and kind of share the progress in the store?
I'd love to. I'll even share the exit spreadsheet too and how it all looks at the end, because that's where the other pop is the refinance after it's, like you were talking about, after it's finished. We pay back, we get the money from LHC, we pay her back, we get it seasoned for a couple of months with the tenant in there, and then we're going to refinance it. But we're going to do it at like a much low, not the typical 75%. It'll be more like at like 65%. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And also, if it gets forgiven in 5 years, are you going to go with a 30-year DSCR? Are you going to, if you need something local, I've got a bank that can get you at 25 years.
Okay.
It'd be a 5-year term, 25-year AM. So it's good on the cash flow. At least it minimizes any kind of negative amortization that you're going through. And that way, when that 5-year mark hits, thank you for the forgiveness.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Girl, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't think there's any way I can top that. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to wind it down. Yeah. In the meantime, guys, if y'all need anything, if y'all have any questions, feel free to reach out. And I'm looking forward to next week. We're going to have Matthew Calhoun from Equity Trust on. They're going to talk about using your 401k to grow your wealth in your retirement. So everybody, y'all have a great night. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.